Welcome to Fitness Tips for 55 Plus. My name is Dr. Jeff Musgrave, Doctor of Physical Therapy, and today we have with us
Mac Kinnarney. I'm a Master's of Public Health, and I am a PhD candidate in Gerontology.
And lucky for us, a StrongerLife Coach.
Yes, indeed.
Awesome. So we're super excited to have Mac here. He's usually in class teaching group classes, personal training classes, but Mac is a really special guy, and I would love for you to share a little bit about your passion, why you wanted to work specifically with people 55 and up with us, and then I'd love for you to share a little bit about the research you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I graduated undergrad, I was in community health education, and I had my personal training certificate as well as group fitness. And when I first got into that, I worked with a wide variety of different clients of all ages, and I just always gravitated towards older adults. So the first couple I trained was in their 70s, and I just kind of fell in love with them. And coming out of my undergrad, I thought I was going to be working with athletes and training them the way that I like to train and different things like that. And then I had this couple who came to me and said, we want to get stronger to get on the ground and play with our grandkids. And I was like, that's awesome. And that's kind of how I fell in love with working with older adults. Then I went on to work in corporate wellness for a little bit of time, and really loved that. Working workplace wellness was very fun as well. And then for a short time during COVID I was a wellness coordinator at a continuum of care community. So with a bunch of older adults who were at a different range of mobility and different aspects of their lives that were just very fascinating to me, and it was great to work with them of all ranges. And kind of moved to Lexington in 2021.
Okay.
And that's when I met you guys back in 2021.
Yes.
And visited to see what the facility looked like as well as what you guys were doing, and I just loved it. Because you don't see too many programs where it's, taking care of the needs of older adults this way. And remembered you guys, kept you in my mind the whole time. And then when more time opened up for me to do some part-time work, we reconnected, and it's just been a great fit.
Yeah, awesome. So it sounds like personal training got some experience with people in their 70s, getting stronger,
Yes.
seeing them change, seeing them meet meaningful goals. And that's what's so cool about what we get to do here is those meaningful things in life that it's like, now that work is done, what do I want to do? I want to play with the grandkids. I want to go on vacation. I want to live in my own home. I want to build that margin and that reserve. And it sounds like you had some really valuable experiences early on in the fitness realm. If you're watching the video, you can tell by Mac's arms, he's no stranger to the gym. We make all of our coaches exercise as well. If it's important enough that we ask others to do it, we do it too. So that's another thing just randomly that we love about Mac. He also just ran a marathon too.
Yes, indeed.
Sounds like that went pretty well.
Yeah, it was fun training for it. I try to set a new fitness goal each year, and this year was based around running. Got the time that I wanted to get, but yes, we were just talking before this too about the strength gains kind of disappear a little bit as well.
They can.
They can when you're doing that. But the having a goal each year is really beneficial for me personally.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Good way to keep yourself driven and motivated.
Absolutely.
So when you interacted with us, you were collecting some data.
Yes.
Could tell us a little bit about that, and then tell us a little more about your current research.
Yeah. So at that time, I met with Sue, who is a member here.
Super Sue, we
Yes.
affectionately call her. She's been around for a while.
Yeah, she's the best. And got to do, that was actually a project for one of my courses that I was taking at the time to look at living arrangements in later life. And she had a unique situation, newly widowed, and I went to see her home and talk about her lifestyle and how things are going with her, after recently being widowed. And it was that was just, fell in love with her story as well as Stronger Life through that. But that was more, a little different than what I'm currently doing. And I'm looking into health span, fall prevention, as well as components of ageism and what that may play a role in looking at fitness and health in later life.
Man, I love it. Dig in and tell us more. Tell us more about what that research looks like and what you're trying to figure out with it.
Absolutely. So we look at fall prevention a lot in later life. So a lot of research out there on multifactorial fall prevention programs with multiple components in it. And a lot of great programs are available for sure for those 65 and older. However, not as much research about fall prevention in midlife. So looking at those 40 to 64 and how their habits now are going to lead to potentially fall prevention in later life. So that's where I'm trying to do something a little bit different and try to see the role of aging stereotypes and what that may play in whether you're preventing things now for later life, or if the stereotype may be dramatic enough to prevent you from doing things right now that may help in later life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So Dustin and I get the opportunity to teach continuing education courses, and one of the big concepts that we talk about, whether we're talking about strength, balance, being able to multitask well, because multitask ability has been linked, or lack of being able to multitask is can set someone up for an increased fall risk, is this idea of reserve, that we've got more strength or more balance than we need over time. So it's like building a really robust bank account of like balance ability, multitasking ability. So it's like if we're getting members to perform up here, then 30 years from now, maybe they've lost a little bit, but they're still way above the minimum they need to help prevent a fall.
Absolutely.
And to your point, I mean, that's something we really lean into, and we've seen in the literature as a common thread, is the higher that margin earlier, the better.
Yes.
But a lot of times, instead of a proactive approach, unfortunately, like most things in the medical system, it's a reactive approach. So it's after you've already fallen, which doesn't mean you can't change your balance, but man, if we started a couple decades sooner and we built a robust balance system and more strength and more physical capacity earlier, we could probably prevent all those things later in life. So it sounds like that's kind of the track of what you're digging into.
And just trying to figure out too, I want to look at what programs would middle-aged adults be interested in doing as well, and how to build those programs to be successful in midlife. I know a lot of things are going on in midlife, and the sandwich generation of a lot of adults who are in their 40s and 50s who are taking care of kids as well as aging parents. So an issue is finding that time, but using that time effectively for programs that are going to be beneficial to improve and increase health span, and then ultimately prevent falls in later life, as well as now in midlife. But looking at those who are 40 and 50, are they thinking about fall prevention at all? I want to know that too, because in your 70s and 80s, you go up to someone, what do you think about fall prevention? They may be top of mind. Could have happened to someone they know. Whereas if you ask someone who's 50 years old, they may not think about it. It's like, I'm not worried about that. And that's fair to not worry about it now, but it could be something in the future. So just looking at what programs can be successful in midlife to provide those benefits in later life.
Man, you touched on so many great things there. I mean, the prevention piece, the strength piece, the challenges of what you called the sandwich generation. I love that, because it's like they're not older adults yet. They're not working, like still probably working adults with kids in the home, but they're maybe taking care of parents.
Correct.
Right? Or like you said, the grandkids. So they're just like, they've got a very busy life. We see that with a lot of our StrongerLife members too, where it's like the only respite they get, or the only investment they take for themselves is in the gym, which is great. We've got a great social, vibrant community, which is awesome. But is a challenge to make yourself a priority, especially if you're not feeling some of the effects in your fitness, in your balance yet. It's like they're coming, and it's really that stage we could probably assume is going to set them up for problems later. So it's like it's not top of mind, because everything else in life is pulling for their attention. And it's not until the health issues start to like rear their ugly heads that a lot of us are like, oh, we better start doing something about this. So it'll be really interesting to see how many people. So is the target 40s and 50s?
40s, anywhere from 40 to 64.
40 to 64.
We're kind of looking at. Midlife can span so far. So I've even narrowed it down to that age range to see what they're thinking about, fall prevention. Yeah,
that'll be really interesting. There's another term that you used, health span, that we talk about here at StrongerLife. Tell me more about what health span is.
So very simply put, when I always talk about health span, is the years of your life that are spent healthy. But that can be a wide range, and the term healthy is different for everyone. But trying to increase that level of independence. I think everyone can probably agree on that in later life you want to maintain your independence. And what is your ability to do that? And that's going to look different for each person. And as well as, just because you have some type of chronic condition or previous injury doesn't mean that you can't maintain a healthy lifestyle, and that in later life you can't maintain your independence. And you can use different compensation and optimization strategies in later life to make sure that you're still doing those things you love to do. So really, I'm just looking at optimizing everyone's health for their goals. And that may look different for each person.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I see all these things mirrored in the gym. What you're talking about with the people that we serve here, and it's like some people, it's the trips around the country. You know, like their goals, their aspirations are they want to be traveling, they want to go to Germany, they want to go France, they want to go to Italy, they want to go to Australia. They're taking these big trips, and for some of our members, it's getting to live independently in their home, maybe by themselves, being able to come to fitness classes here, go out and visit friends, go to social gatherings, and they are super content. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. They're just different. But it's beautiful that variation in what successful aging doesn't look the same for everyone, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Completely agree. And what I love about a lot of the members that come in too, they will come up to you before class, say, hey, I'm dealing with this, but they're still there. And they trust us and know that we're still going to provide a great workout for you today. Yeah. And we're going to be aware of that injury or limitation potentially, but you're still going to be able to do things that are going to help you to get healthier today. Yeah.
So something I'm curious, and you may not, I know that this project is just getting ready to begin, your research, but do you have a hypothesis formed on what you think is going to impact health span and fall risk?
I'm just, the component I'm most interested in that I really am not sure of is the ageism component. And ageism can look also very differently. An easy and quick definition is like just a set of beliefs about the aged. And what are those? You can have negative or positive aging stereotypes and perceptions. So I'm just curious to see whether that impacts one's level of physical activity or proactive health behaviors. Yeah. And so I'm just very curious to see if negative aging stereotypes are prevalent for middle-aged adults that partake in this study. So I'm building out a survey right now and trying to figure out, are negative age stereotypes affecting your actions right now and in a positive or negative way? Because I can see it going both ways, and I have seen studies where it has gone both ways, of seeing negative things happening within your family, friends, and you're like, I want to go the complete opposite way. And you start taking healthy behaviors very seriously. Or you'll see it and say, oh man, I'm destined towards that as well when I age. So that's what I'm just really interested to see.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm sure you're familiar with Becca Levy's research out of Yale. We've mentioned it a couple times on the podcast. Most of her stuff, I believe, is like free access. If there's anyone listening, Becca Levy, researcher out of Yale, looked at lots of different factors and looking at that positive or negative age belief. And it tends to be, it sounds like people that have a positive age belief believe they've got some control over what's going to happen to them as they age. To your point, proactive health measures, like what I eat matters. If I exercise matters. But if you have a negative age belief, it tends to be paired with there's nothing I can do. Like aging is going to happen to me. And I grew up that way in a rural area where it's like almost everyone had diabetes and ended up having like some type of amputation or went on to have cardiovascular disease and have a stroke or a heart attack or have dementia. And I just thought that was normal aging because that was what was around me. Yeah. And as I got to work with more older adults and realized, man, there's some people doing this really well. And I had some of those models in my life too. But it just shows you that aging is a very individualized experience. I'd be really curious to see if your research goes on to model some of what's been done before, where those positive age beliefs, because you believe you can do something about it, you take a proactive approach, and it becomes your future, or not.
Right.
I mean, that's the whole reason for the research. So be really curious, and I'm sure by then we'll be able to get some data from you and hear how it all shakes out. I'm sure our listeners would love to hear how their choices and their beliefs go on to impact their fall risk long term. That's really cool.
Absolutely. And even the age categories too are very interesting to me. And I don't necessarily love even saying the middle age and older age and trying to categorize age. And when we think of middle-aged adults and choosing 40 to 64, that's such a wide span. And are they in midlife or are they in late life? It depends on the individual. Mm-hmm. And I've never met we hold 65 as that arbitrary age for older adult, but I've never met a 65-year-old who looks exactly like another 65-year-old and has the same functional level. Everyone's different. So I always am interested in learning about stories too and each individual person.
That's such a great point, because age may have little to do with what stage of life you're in. Yeah. What you're actively doing, what your day-to-day looks like, what your functional level looks like. And that's something Dustin and I saw clinically all the time. Mm-hmm. One of my best examples, most extreme examples, I had these patients in the same week. I had a patient literally roll into my clinic in a wheelchair who had no traumatic injury, no neurological condition. They had deconditioning. Unfortunately, they were depressed. Mm-hmm. They had a lot of anxiety on board. They had chronic pain mostly due to just sedentary behavior. Yeah. They weren't exercising. They weren't moving. When I ask about nutrition and sleep, they're not sleeping well. When I ask about nutrition, they told me they just sit and watch TV and eat candy all day. Yeah. And then that same week, I had someone in their upper 80s, they might have even been in their early 90s. Mm-hmm. And I would prep my charts, and on paper, it looked like this person should be pretty sick. They've had all these medical conditions, they're on all these medications, but functionally, they were very active, they were very sharp. Mm-hmm. They were living at home independently by themselves in the early 90s, and the functional level of that 80-plus-year-old was way beyond the 50-year-old. Mm-hmm. The 50-year-old was living like it was end stage of life. Yeah. And the 90-year-old was still bebopping along, going to church, going to social events, mm-hmm. active community, active with their family, getting around, very sharp, corrected me when I got their exercise program wrong. I mean, just like a model of what's possible beyond just age. But age is just such an arbitrary boundary, or, expectations there just aren't. They're not helpful always.
I think my first class that I took here as an intro, I remember we were doing the slam ball and throwing it over the shoulder. And one of the women in the class was throwing a 40-pound slam ball over her shoulder. And I was like, that's awesome. And I wasn't thinking anything. And then she came up to me and said, yeah, not bad for 83, right? I'm like, not bad for any age. Yes. So unbelievable. Yeah.
So it's so cool. Funny, some of my peers in my peer group, if we're like, hey, we're going to do slam balls with a 40-pound ball, they'd probably look at me like, wait, what? Yeah. But it's just amazing what the body can do and build resilience, whether you're middle-aged or whether you're a bit older. We see some really incredible things. So based on the literature, the groundwork you've done so far, what would you share for our listeners that are 55 and up, if they're interested, just based on what you know so far, to help them chart a positive path for aging?
Absolutely. The biggest indicator that I've seen of health in later life is health in midlife. So if you are 55 years old, or whatever age you are, the earlier you can begin, the better, but it's also never too late. So it's never too late to start to map out what you want the rest of your life to be, and the earlier you can begin, the better, whatever that may look like.
That's awesome. Mac, anything else you want to share with our listeners before we hop off here?
Nothing that I can think of.
Excellent. Yeah. It was so nice to have you on the mic. Keep following us. Make sure to continue to submit questions in our 55 plus group. If there's a topic, a question that you have that you think others would benefit from, we'd love to answer more of your questions. Thanks again, Mac, and we will see you next time.